The story begins deep within a dense and foreboding forest, where the young adventurer eagerly crouches among the thick foliage, eyes locked on his prey. "You fell right into my trap," he whispers with satisfaction as he watches a large, spotted beast ensnared in his well-laid trap. His lips curl into a grin, his thoughts already drifting to the promise of a hearty meal. It has been far too long since he last tasted proper meat, and the sight of his catch only fuels his hunger further. With determination in his step, he hauls the beast back towards his camp, his mind lingering on the satisfaction of a full stomach. But as he drags the creature along the forest path, a sense of foreboding descends upon him. The leaves rustle unnaturally, the ground trembles slightly, and he finds himself staring up at a colossal, menacing creature, a wild boar, unlike any he has ever seen. The beast's blood-red eyes fixate on him as it lets out a deep, guttural growl. The sheer size and power of the beast send a shiver down his spine. His precious meat, the result of his hard work, is being devoured by the boar as he sneaks away to escape. Panic begins to set in as he realizes that the demonic realm, where he now finds himself, is far more dangerous than he had anticipated. Why did I end up living in this hell? The story then shifts back in time, a few days before he found himself in this perilous situation. The scene is set in a small town, where an old and weary realtor sits behind his desk in a dimly lit room. He enters, his expression one of hope mixed with desperation. He has spent 3 long years saving up enough money to buy a piece of land, a place to call his own. However, the realtor informs him with a heavy heart, "You're a tad bit late. That land was sold 4 days ago." He is crushed by the news. The 5 gold coins he painstakingly saved now feel like a worthless burden in his palm. But he is not one to give up easily. "Is there any other good land?" he asks, his voice tinged with a mixture of desperation and determination. The realtor eyes him thoughtfully before offering a small consolation. "Unfortunately, land like that is hard to come by. But," he says, leaning forward with a sly grin, "I do have something." The land in question is far from ideal. It is a vast, unexplored forest, surrounded by mountains, cliffs, and the sea. No one has ever set foot there, and it's considered part of the demonic realm, a place filled with dangers unknown. Yet, for him, it is the last opportunity to own a piece of land, a chance to start anew. "There's nothing left to lose at this point anyway," he exclaims, the resolve in his voice unwavering as he agrees to purchase the land. The narrative then takes a reflective turn, as he reminisces about his past. At the age of 15, he was kicked out of his home, having never shown any particular talents or skills. In his youthful naivety, he became an adventurer simply because it seemed cool, but reality soon proved otherwise. The life of an adventurer was far from glamorous. He barely managed to survive, often taking on menial jobs that did little more than keep him fed. Despite his admiration for the high-ranking adventurers who occasionally passed through, he began to realize that most adventurers lacked any real combat skills and struggled just to get by. The money they earned was often wasted on temporary pleasures, leaving them as poor and desperate as they had started. He himself was no different, finding no success as either a merchant or an artisan. The thought of quitting the adventurer's life crossed his mind more than once. But then, he remembered something important. He was the son of a farmer. Even if he wasn't cut out to be an adventurer, perhaps he could find success in owning land and living off it. With renewed determination, he set about saving money for 3 long years until he had enough to purchase land, a place to finally call his own. "New life. Here I come," he declares, his resolve stronger than ever. Back in the present, he makes his way towards his newly acquired land, passing through a rugged and desolate landscape. As he approaches, he is stopped by a group of soldiers guarding the area. "Where are you going?" one of them demands, eyeing him suspiciously. He proudly declares that he has bought the land ahead, much to the soldiers' disbelief. They warn him about the dangers of the unexplored territory, known as the demonic realm, but he remains undeterred. He is determined to make this land his own, no matter the risk. As he ventures deeper into the forest, he encounters a thick canopy of trees that block out the sunlight. The deeper he goes, the more he realizes just how vast and untamed the land truly is. Yet, there is a strange peace in the air, a quiet calm that contradicts the soldier's warnings. The demonic realm isn't as full of monsters as I thought. It's quite peaceful, he muses, a sense of optimism creeping into his thoughts. But as he ventures further, he soon finds himself face to face with true danger. A massive wild bear and a Vespa hornet, creatures of terrifying size and strength, appear before him. His heart pounds in his chest as he realizes the peril he's in. A wild bear and Vespa hornet? I wouldn't be able to win if I attacked them now, he thinks, fear gripping his mind. In a moment of desperate decision, he watches as the two beasts clash, the forest shaking with their every move. He hides, hoping to escape unnoticed. As the battle between the bear and the hornet intensifies, he waits with bated breath, praying that he won't be drawn into the fray. The tension in the air finally breaks as the bear, injured and enraged, lets out a deafening roar before landing a devastating hit on the hornet. After its victory, it retreats into the forest. The hornet, sliced in half by the bear, lays dead on the floor. Makyo breathes a sigh of relief as the immediate danger passes. Is it over? He whispers to himself, his body still trembling from the close call. Seeing an opportunity, he gathers his courage and begins to collect materials from the defeated creature. Let's gather some materials, he decides, knowing that these resources could prove valuable in his survival. Among the items he collects is a magic stone, a powerful artifact that monsters and demons use to manipulate magic and use abilities. Each stone has its own unique properties, and he marvels at his unexpected luck in finding one. After gathering all the materials from the hornet, he finds that the venomous stinger is missing and wonders if his hunch is right. He decides to look around and find the bear lying defeated on the floor. His hunch being right, he exclaims, as I thought. He decides to also harvest the materials from the bear and contemplates his lucky start, having found some free materials along his journey into his land. As he delves deeper into the forest, he stumbles upon yet another unexpected discovery. This time, a slime. The creature is small, seemingly harmless, but he knows better than to underestimate it. You're a slime, aren't you? He asks cautiously, eyeing the gelatinous mass as it wobbles before him. But the slime, far from benign, launches a sudden attack, forcing him to defend himself. He realizes that the creature is draining his magic, weakening him with each passing moment. If I get attacked again, I'll faint from magic exhaustion, he thinks, the gravity of the situation pressing down on him. In a desperate bid to end the fight, he aims for the core at the center of the slime, knowing that destroying it is the only way to defeat the creature. But the slime proves elusive, dodging his attacks and dissolving his weapon in the process. Finally, with a last surge of effort, he tosses the bear pelt over the slime and strikes true, destroying the slime's core and reducing the creature to a steaming pile of goo. Yes, I did it, he exclaims, the adrenaline of victory coursing through him. But even as he celebrates, he can't help but feel a pang of disappointment. One wild bear pelt wasted, he laments, knowing that the acidic slime ruined what could have been a valuable resource. He continues his exploration through the forest, his senses heightened by the dangers he faced the day before. He is careful, methodical in his approach, cataloging the various plants he encounters. Name: palm leaf, he notes as he examines a large frond. Name: bendgrass, he adds, taking in the strange, vine-like plant that drips with a slimy liquid when cut. Name: butterbur, he observes, watching as water pours from the freshly cut stem. Each discovery adds to his growing knowledge of the land, a vital resource in ensuring his survival. As he continues to explore his new land, he comes across a strange and unsettling sight. A flower field in the middle of the jungle, with the skeletal remains of a monster lying among the blooms. Is that a monster's corpse? He wonders aloud, a sense of unease settling over him. Something about the scene feels off, as though the land itself is hiding secrets far more dangerous than he could have imagined. Despite the warning signs, he decides to set up camp nearby, hoping to gather his strength before continuing his exploration. Nightfall finds him by his makeshift camp, the flames of his fire flickering as he roasted a piece of wild bear meat. The day's achievements brought a small sense of accomplishment. Somehow, things are starting to take shape. He reflects, though hunger gnaws at him with a persistence that is hard to ignore. The roasted meat gives him some solace. I'm glad I got the wild bear meat, he thinks, as he bites into it, the taste a welcome distraction from the day's perils. But even as he eats, he knows that the plants and animals in this forest are far from ordinary, each with its own hidden threats. Tomorrow, he resolves, would be a day of exploration and planning, a day to start looking into the unknowns of this strange environment while sorting out his life. As the night deepens, he catches sight of something in the underbrush. At first, it is just a pair of glowing eyes, their greenish hue cutting through the darkness like a knife. Could it be? He whispers, his breath catching in his throat. The eyes belong to a green tiger, a massive beast that emerges from the shadows with a growl that sends shivers down his spine. The tiger's sheer size and the malevolent intelligence in its gaze speak of a predator that is not to be trifled with. He realizes with a sinking feeling that he is ill-prepared for such an encounter. Panicking, he remembers the words of an experienced warrior he once knew. If you encounter one while unarmed, prepare to forfeit your life. The advice rings in his ears, and he quickly comes up with a desperate plan. Reaching for a piece of poisoned meat, he hurls it towards the tiger, hoping to buy some time. Eat this poisoned meat, he shouts, his voice trembling with fear. But the tiger merely sniffs at the offering, its eyes narrowing in disdain. He watches in horror as the tiger turns its gaze back to him, the plan having failed miserably. The tiger lunges, and he scrambles back, his heart pounding in his chest. Arg! It's not working at all, he gasps, realizing too late that the tiger prefers fresh meat, and his poison bait has been useless. The beast charges, its muscles rippling under its fur as it prepares to strike. He knows that if he doesn't act fast, he will be torn to pieces. He bolts into the forest, hoping to put some distance between himself and the predator. But the tiger is relentless, its snarls growing louder as it gains on him. In a desperate move, he leaps into the foliage, scrambling up into the branches of a palm tree, cutting to release the slimy liquid within. The tiger follows right behind him. He screams, the fear overwhelming him as the tiger's jaws snap just inches from his leg. The beast is too close, its breath hot on his skin as it snarls, trying to pull him down. But then, as Makyo planned, the tiger slips, its massive weight causing it to lose balance and tumble from the palm tree liquid. Right on target, he breathes, relief washing over him as he watches the beast crash to the ground. The tiger roars in frustration, but the fall has disoriented it. Taking advantage of the moment, he quickly makes his escape, his heart still racing from the close encounter. Finally safe, he slumps against a tree, his body trembling with exhaustion and adrenaline. That was terrifying, he mutters, wiping sweat from his brow. He had seriously thought he was a goner, and the realization that he had survived by sheer luck hit him hard. For this to happen on the first day of my new life, he murmurs, his voice tinged with disbelief and despair. There was no hope for the future at this rate. He had barely escaped with his life, and the dangers of this place seemed insurmountable. I seriously thought I was a goner, he repeats, the words hollow in his ears. As he sits there, trying to regain his composure, he hears something in the distance, a sound that sends a chill down his spine. The noise is getting louder, and with it, the certainty that he is not alone in this forest. The sounds are getting closer, he thinks, his mind racing with possibility. His first instinct is to flee, to abandon this place and run back to the village, to start over somewhere safer. But then he pauses, a dark thought creeping into his mind. Start over? What can I even do? The question hangs in the air, heavy with despair and doubt. A flood of memories from his life in the city washes over him. Days spent as an adventurer, unappreciated and overlooked, toiling away at thankless tasks. He had squandered his days chasing fleeting pleasures, all the while sinking deeper into the despair of a life that refused to change. The realization weighs heavy on him now, a stark reminder of how far he had fallen. Determined not to give in to fear, he pulls himself together. I have no other choice, he tells himself, though the words offer little comfort. Running wouldn't make anything better, he knows that now. With a deep breath, he resolves to face whatever comes next, even if it means confronting the green tiger once more. All I have left is my life here, he whispers, the words a final acceptance of his fate. This wasteland is all that is left for him, and he has to find a way to survive, no matter what. He decides to lure the tiger towards him, shouting, "Hey, over here," and leaving a piece of meat for it as bait. The tiger ignores the meat and walks across the flower field, finding Makyo perched up on a tree, its eyes locking onto him as it circles the area. But this time, he is ready. He has a plan, albeit a risky one. Makyo knows that if his predictions are wrong, he will die here. But there is no turning back now. He has to trust in his instincts and hope that they will see him through. The tiger, sensing its prey is near, rears up on its hind legs, claws slashing through the air in a desperate attempt to reach him. But Makyo has calculated the distance perfectly. The beast is just out of reach. As the tiger falls back into the flower field, its energy drains rapidly, its massive body slumping into the blossoms as it drifts into a deep, unnatural sleep. Makyo's lips curl into a satisfied smirk. It has worked. His hunch had been right, and the tiger's downfall was the proof. He lets out a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. "Yes, it worked!" he exclaims, his voice filled with a mix of relief and triumph. The flower garden had been a natural trap after all. The white and mysterious flowers had a strong sleep-inducing effect that had weakened the tiger just enough for him to land the final blow. With the danger now behind him, he begins to gather the spoils of his victory. "Yes, I won!" he cheers, hoisting the tiger's head with a sense of accomplishment. The battle had been hard-fought, but he had prevailed. Along with the tiger's meat, he finds a magic stone, its effects unknown but potentially valuable. These materials are his reward for surviving the night, and he can't help but feel a swell of pride. Returning to his camp, he sits by the fire, the flickering flames casting long shadows across his tired face. He roasts the tiger's meat, but as he takes a bite, he grimaces. "I can't eat this green tiger meat," he mutters, the taste too strong and wild for his liking. Still, he is grateful to be alive, even if the food is less than appetizing. "I was in the middle of eating before all that happened," he muses, his thoughts drifting as exhaustion begins to set in. The night had been long, and now, with his victory secure, he allows himself to relax. Finally, as the fire crackles and the stars twinkle overhead, he lies down on the soft earth, his body aching from the day's trials. "I want to eat something delicious," he sighs, his thoughts drifting to the comforts he had left behind. But he knows that isn't possible now, not in this hellish place. "But I'll try my best for just a little longer," he resolves, determination creeping back into his voice. It is tough out here, tougher than anything he has ever faced, but he can't give up now. After all, this wasteland, this unforgiving land, is his new home. And so, under the watchful eye of the moon, he drifts into an uneasy sleep, the fire burning low as the night wears on. Makyo wakes up in a bustling, unfamiliar city. He looks around in confusion at the bright lights and towering buildings that stretch above him. Crowds of people move in every direction, filling the streets, and the sheer number of them overwhelms him. Where is this? What's happening? He wonders, clearly feeling out of place in this busy city setting. Despite his uncertainty, he tries to process the environment, but the overwhelming nature of the city keeps drawing his attention. "There are so many people here," he says to himself, unable to grasp the magnitude of the crowd and unfamiliar surroundings. The environment shifts drastically. Makyo, now visibly startled, sees his reflection on a screen. His appearance seems to disturb him as he begins questioning what kind of place he has found himself in. The reflection, dark and shadowy, contrasts with the bustling world around him, amplifying his confusion and fear. He exclaims, What kind of place is this?" as he struggles to understand the reality of his situation. The narrative then takes a sharp turn. Makyo wakes up suddenly in a different setting, gasping as his eyes widen in shock. A thick forest surrounds him, filled with the sounds of creatures in the distance. Large birds cry out as they fly through the sky, casting shadows over the forest. His panic rises, and he seems even more out of place here than in the city. The disorienting change of environment leaves him shaken. Still recovering from the shock, Makyo looks down at the ground, his body partially propped up by branches and leaves. As he stands up, trying to make sense of everything, Makyo questions the experience he just had. What was that dream? He mutters to himself. The forest stretches out before him, a mix of towering trees and distant mountains. The sky is vast, and the mountains loom large in the background. There's a sense of foreboding in his tone, as though he's unsure whether he's still in the dream or if he has truly woken up. He stands in front of a makeshift shelter, suggesting he's been here for a while, and yet, the recent experiences have deeply unsettled him. Makyo begins to recall something familiar about the dream. He stretches, preparing for what lies ahead, but his mind remains occupied with thoughts of the dream. It's one I've had countless times since I was a child. He reflects, clearly troubled by the recurring nature of the dream. Suddenly, a slime-like creature emerges, wrapping itself around Makyo's belongings. "A slime," he exclaims in surprise. The translucent creature covers his bag, and he immediately springs into action, worried about his possessions. "Oh no, my bag!" He cries out as he tries to save it from the creature's grasp. His frustration grows as he realizes that the creature is causing damage, and he mutters in frustration, "Damn it!" After a quick struggle, Makyo manages to save his bag. He sighs with relief as he checks to see if everything is intact. "My bag is safe. Thank God," he mutters. Despite the strange creatures and dangerous surroundings, he reflects on his own improvement. "Maybe I'm getting stronger," he muses, acknowledging that he has grown from these trials. Determined to continue his exploration of the forest, Makyo resolves to press on. "Time to continue exploring this hell," he says with a mix of determination and dread. The forest looms large ahead, and the sense of danger is palpable. He tightens his grip on his gear, preparing for whatever comes next. As he walks deeper into the forest, he mutters to himself, "I should at least know what's where." Makyo, knowing that survival depends on being aware of his surroundings. His eyes catch something alarming in the distance. A giant, half-human, half-serpent creature lies draped over a tree. The upper body of a woman, torso of a snake. It must be a lamia, he realizes, having read about such monsters before. His anxiety spikes as he recalls that such creatures are known to be strong and dangerous. However, he notices something off. The lamia appears lifeless. Still cautious, he approaches, trying to piece together what might have killed it. "She looks dead," he notes. As he investigates further, Makyo recalls something important. He remembers throwing poisoned meat to the green tiger the day before. Putting two and two together, he realizes the lamia may have eaten the same meat, which explains its demise. "The meat that I threw at the green tiger yesterday with the poison needles," he mutters, understanding now why the creature lies dead before him. The relief of not having to fight the lamia is clear in his expression. With the lamia dead, Makyo wastes no time. He carefully extracts a glowing magic stone from the creature's body, his hands trembling slightly as he removes it. "Let's remove its magic stone," he says to himself. The stone holds great power, and he feels fortunate to have come across such a valuable resource. "I was lucky, no matter how you slice it," he reflects, recognizing the stroke of fortune that led him here. Pressing onward, Makyo ventures deeper into the forest, determined to uncover more about this strange world. "Let's venture deeper into the swayman grass today," he says, deciding on his next goal. The forest becomes denser and strange. Oversized plants surround him. In the distance, his eyes fall upon a cluster of large mushrooms growing from the base of a tree. "Oh, is that a mushroom?" he wonders aloud. Tempted by the sight of the mushrooms, Makyo questions whether they are edible. Hunger gnaws at him, but his caution prevails. "I wonder if it's edible," he contemplates but quickly dismisses the thought. No, he concludes, knowing better than to risk consuming unknown plants in such a dangerous place. Instead, to test the mushrooms, he catches a small creature, a forest rat, its green fur blending with the surroundings. He quickly tosses the rat at the mushroom cluster, triggering a reaction. A burst of spores explodes from the mushrooms, paralyzing the rat in an instant. Paralyzing spores, huh? Makyo muses, impressed by the natural defense mechanism of the plants. Another natural trap, it seems, he says, realizing that the forest is full of dangers beyond just the creatures. The spore's power reinforces the fact that nothing in this forest can be taken lightly. Then inspiration hits him. Wait, a trap, he says. Makyo is seen carefully preparing a trap in the forest. It's a trap, he exclaims as he hurriedly sets up his defenses. He understands that without proper combat training, this is his only option to fight against the monsters that inhabit this world. His determination is clear as he thinks, this is the only way for someone like me, who hasn't even received proper combat training, to fight these monsters. Despite the fear and sweat dripping down his face, Makyo resolves, I'll survive, with a steely determination that keeps him focused on the task at hand. He meticulously places a swamin flower and a mushroom into the trap he's prepared. Let's place the swamin flower and mushroom in the hole, he instructs himself, ensuring everything is set just right. Lying back on the ground, exhausted, he reflects, I finally finished digging the hole. Despite his exhaustion, he knows that this is only the beginning of his survival efforts. As the day ends, Makyo collapses on the ground, drained from the day's efforts. I refuse to move another step today, he declares, his body giving in to the fatigue. Hunger gnaws at him, and he weakly mutters, I'm so hungry. He closes his eyes, hoping that tomorrow will bring better luck in catching something substantial to eat. I hope I can catch something big tomorrow, he thinks before slipping into a restless sleep. Morning arrived, and with it, a sight that both thrilled and terrified Makyo. A massive boar, larger than anything he had ever seen, lay before him and snared by his trap. Its size was overwhelming, and even though it was fast asleep, the sheer scale of the beast left Makyo questioning his next move. No. This is way too big, he panicked, trying to muster the courage to finish what he had started. Despite his fears, Makyo knew he had to act. He cautiously approached the giant boar, raising his weapon to strike. Butchering the beast would take an entire day, a task that seemed as colossal as the boar itself. Just as he was about to begin, he was startled by the sight of something unusual. A blue snake, coiled inside the boar's stomach. What's up with this weird ecosystem? He wondered aloud, as he carefully continued his work. As night fell once again, Makyo found himself surrounded by the fruits of his labor. The boar's fangs, fur, meat, and even a magic stone were now in his possession, valuable resources that would help him survive a little longer. He sat by the fire, cooking a piece of the boar's meat, savoring the first proper meal he'd had in days. It's been a while since I had some proper meat, he thought, the warmth of the food spreading through his body, giving him a rare moment of peace and satisfaction. However, this victory was short-lived. His tools, a knife and an axe, had dulled from the day's work, leaving him vulnerable. He inspected the boar's bones, deciding that they looked sturdy enough to be repurposed into new weapons. I can't gather materials or fight, he mused, quickly setting to work, fashioning a sword and an axe from the bones and tree sap. After a night of intense focus, he held up his creations, rudimentary but functional. They're finished, he declared, a small sense of accomplishment settling in. With his new tools in hand, he began setting more traps, this time finishing much faster than before. A thought crept into his mind. Am I getting stronger? He questioned, examining his hands. Maybe eating all that meat gave me more strength? But is this how I am now? The realization that he was growing, changing in this world, left him with mixed emotions. For so long, no matter what he did, he couldn't get stronger. But now, things were different. The next day, Makyo set out once more, exploring the vast, untamed wilderness. His journey led him to the base of a mountain range, where he discovered a dark, looming cave. Oh, it's a cave, he exclaimed, his curiosity piqued by the potential shelter and secrets it might hold. Torch in hand, Makyo cautiously stepped into the cave's entrance, the light revealing worn walls and remnants of a life once lived here. Does someone live here? He wondered, as his eyes caught the sight of a wall torch, long since extinguished. The deeper he ventured, the clearer it became. This place was once home to someone, but now it stood deserted. There are traces of someone living here in the past, but it seems deserted, he observed, as the cave opened into a room filled with furniture, though everything was covered in dust and decay. As he ventured further into the cave, Makyo's torchlight fell upon a haunting sight. A skeleton, sitting in a chair as though it were still alive, its bony fingers gripping a book. The scene sent a chill down his spine. Who was this person, and what secrets did they take to their grave? Makyo couldn't help but be drawn to the book, his hand reaching out to inspect it more closely. The skeleton's grip on the book was surprisingly firm, as though even in death, it was unwilling to let go of its secrets. Makyo carefully pried the book from the skeleton's grasp, noticing the initials PJ embossed on the cover. His heart raced as he opened the diary, hoping it would offer him some clue, some guidance on how to survive in this strange world. It's a diary, records of monsters, edible plants, medicinal herbs. He read, realizing the invaluable knowledge contained within its pages. This was no ordinary book. It was a survival guide, left behind by someone who had once faced the same struggles as he did. Flipping through the pages, Makyo's eyes widened as he came across a cryptic section. The words spoke of ancient ruins, a guardian of the demonic realm, and a gigantic monster that appeared every 3 months. Are there ruins in the demonic realm? He exclaimed, his mind racing with the implications. Mastery of space-time magic is essential. Common sense learned from current magical books won't work. Ancient magic circles are far ahead of modern times. The diary's warnings were clear. Survival in this world required knowledge and skills far beyond anything Makyo had ever imagined. Despite his best efforts, there were parts of the diary that remained a mystery to Makyo. The cryptic symbols and unknown language were beyond his understanding. It seems like PJ was researching this place, but I can't seem to understand this, he admitted to himself. One passage, in particular, stood out. My only regret is that I was unable to solve the mystery of these lands. The words were heavy with the weight of unfulfilled purpose, a reminder of the challenges that still lay ahead. Makyo stepped out of the cave, the words of PJ echoed in his mind as he surveyed the surrounding landscape. Rest in peace, he whispered, paying his respects to the unknown adventurer who had come before. The cave, with its treasure trove of unfamiliar metals, weapons, and armor, hinted at the skill and dedication of its previous occupant. He must have been quite the skilled adventurer. A man like that. How did he die? Makyo pondered, the mystery of PJ's fate adding another layer of intrigue to his journey. Despite the unanswered questions, Makyo knew he had to keep moving forward. The cave, untouched and filled with resources, seemed like the perfect place to set up a base of operations. First, I should be glad that I found this cave, he declared, acknowledging the small victory in finding a safe place to stay. With that, he began the process of moving in, determined to make the most of this newfound shelter. With a renewed sense of purpose, Makyo's mind began to race with ideas for transforming the cave into a home. My dreams for this place are expanding, he thought excitedly. He could see the potential in this space, envisioning it as a beautiful and functional home base. Next, I'll repair what's salvageable and make what's missing with the available materials, he planned, eager to get to work. The first task was to tidy up the messy room, clearing away the remnants of PJ's life to make room for his own. After a long day of work, Makyo took a step back to admire his progress. All right, I think this is good enough, he said, satisfaction evident in his voice. The cave, once filled with decay and remnants of the past, was now clean and ready to be rebuilt. I'm back, he exclaimed, though he knew there was no one there to welcome him. But that was okay. Being free from the complexities of human relationships suited him just fine. As he sat down to rest, A sense of belonging washed over him. This cave, once the final resting place of PJ, was now Makyo's new home, a place where he could continue his quest for survival and, perhaps, find the answers that PJ could not. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe for the next parts and other exciting recaps.